Welcome to the 0+1 podcast.
All right, guys, welcome back to the 0+1 podcast. I am your host, Hayden Wade. Today we got a special guest, Zac Kallas, with us. I'll let him introduce himself, and then we'll jump right into it. Zac, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. My name is Zac Kallas. I work with Skywater Search Partners. We are the number one executive search firm in Minnesota. We place full-time permanent employees with small to mid-sized organizations in the Midwest. I lead the technology group. We specialize in software engineering, leadership positions, everything in between, full-time permanent roles, and that is our specialty.
That's awesome. Are you still doing like active recruiting, or are you more of like a strategy for your firm?
Leading a team. So leading a team is probably a quarter of the job. Recruiting is probably three-quarters of the job. So
Okay.
it's definitely full-time recruiting. We have a full desk model. That means we work on the client side and on the candidate side. Some organizations split those duties up, but we do everything. So yeah, most of my job is recruiting.
Sweet. That's good to hear
Yeah,
that you're still much in the weeds. I think that'll
yeah,
help in this podcast for sure with some of the questions that I had in
for sure.
mind. Fun fact, Zac was my recruiter in the past. I really enjoyed working with him. He valued my time and really listened to what I wanted in my new position, and he hooked me up. So if you're in the Twin Cities, definitely check him and his team out. Yeah, but for the agenda today, we'll just dive into like why would a software engineer want to work with a recruiter, the job market today, and then maybe some insights for hiring managers. So with that said, why might a software engineer want to work with a recruiter? Like, what value does a recruiter bring to the table?
Yeah. So we're talking to software engineers and other types of technical personnel on a daily basis. So I think we have a wealth of knowledge, and it's instant knowledge. It's relevant knowledge that's going on today. So we're constantly talking to people. We're not software engineers, right? We're not technical backgrounds. I don't have a computer science degree. I have a business degree, but we're constantly talking to people like yourself, and we listen. And when software engineers are looking for a new role or not looking for a new role, we kind of know what's going on, and we know what hiring managers are looking for. Um, so a wealth of knowledge, I think, is one piece. Another piece would be the market in terms of opportunities that are available. Some are posted online, some are not posted online. Some are created out of thin air as we talk to someone like yourself. You know what I mean? It's not like we're trying to fit a square hole into a square hole. It's the fact that we talk to you and we think of an opportunity because of a hiring manager we spoke to once upon a time. So after talking to you, we think of that organization and we introduce you to, and next thing you know, that role pops up and it's a job. So again, the market, whether they're open positions or not open positions. Um, Thirdly, salary insights. You know what I mean? It's hey, what am I worth? I kind of know what you're worth in terms of the organizations that I work with. I might not know what you're worth with organizations I don't work with, but I work with probably a dozen companies at a time. I've got 6 team members that work with a dozen companies at a time. So you're talking 60 different companies that have positions for people like yourself. And I can tell you where you fit in line with your skill set and what you're worth to those organizations. So it's a lot going on within one conversation that I can add value to. Um, that being said, there are times where it makes more sense for you to go after an opportunity on your own. So I'm not always the best option, but again, I'm a sounding board. So in any case, I'm worth a conversation. Um, you might not end up getting placed by me, but what's 30 minutes out of your day to learn a little bit about the market, learn a little bit about
Sure.
salaries, learn a little bit about technologies that might be relevant in your space, things like that.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the things I noticed was just like you kind of do that matchmaking. You have clients in mind, you know my needs and wants, and then you kind of just marry those together if there's a good fit somewhere. And then I think the compensation insights is huge. Understanding your values, a huge thing when you're looking for a new job, considering leaving your current job, things like that. You mentioned there's some cases where it might be better to just pursue a job on your own. Like what are some of those cases you find that's a better option?
Yeah, I mean, especially when you're maybe a well networked person yourself, you don't need me to go find a job. Again, I might be that sounding board, but you can go find a job on your own when you know people, when you're, hey, my former manager works here. I mean, clearly that's an opportunity for you to go connect and work with people that you've already worked with in the past, or companies you're super passionate about, right? I want to go work for XYZ company because they do incredible things and I love those incredible things. Go apply for the job, but be aggressive about it and try to get in, not just with an application, but connecting with people and sending reach outs to people that might work at that organization to try and get in more aggressively. It takes effort, and I'm maybe the more effortless option, right?
Yeah,
I reach
yeah,
out to you, I get you through the process, I help negotiate, I do all those things on my end. But on your end, if you want to go through that process on your own with a company that you're really passionate about, go for it. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's either you can do it or I can help you do it, and it's
sure.
yeah, they both work, but
Yeah.
they both are work,
Do
and it's
you
my job
is
to
there
do that work, I suppose.
right. Is there a particular type of candidate you like to work with?
I mean, I like working with smart people. You were a lot of fun to work with. um,
Thanks.
I like working with energetic, and I mean, it's probably no different than most businesses. Energetic, positive people. Um, I like working with responsive people. I think you could probably say that about recruiters as well. I think we get a bad rap for sometimes not being responsive, or um, that's probably the biggest thing. Getting ghosted after an interview or something like that. I like working with engineers that want to follow up, good or bad or indifferent. It's like I
Sure.
want to tell you about how this went because I can offer some insight and I want to help you. So responsive people is probably up there with positive, energetic, smart, things like that.
Okay. What is kind of like change the topic here? Like, what is the biggest reason you don't think candidates succeed?
Yeah, I mean, I think the easy number one is you're not a fit for the job. Candidates don't
Okay.
succeed because they're not quite a fit. But in terms of maybe more broadly why they might not succeed,
Yeah.
I think it's enthusiasm, it's asking questions, it's treating the opportunity um, like it's something you want. People come out of interviews and often, not often, but a big reason, maybe one of the top reasons, would be they didn't seem like they wanted the job. They didn't seem like they were excited to be there. They didn't seem
Right.
like they
Right.
were happy to talk to me. And I think there's maybe some sense of I'm a software engineer. I'm high in demand, and I don't need this opportunity. And that's totally true. That's the
Right.
worst part.
Right.
They're like, man, why don't they want my job? And
Yeah.
they're like, well, they have 100 other jobs maybe they could go get. So it's some companies maybe have their nose up saying everyone should want our job. Well, no, that's not the case. And then some software engineers say everyone wants me. Well, no, that's not
Right.
the
Right.
case either. So I think some people have to go through that experience enough and understand, okay, I need to be pleasant. I need to be I need to be excited. And
Yeah.
maybe it happens when you're really excited about the job, and that's the only time. But yeah, I get out of a debrief call and the client says they were not excited to be here, and the candidate talks to me and says, I'm so excited about this job. And I'm like, what? Like, this is,
That's crazy.
how did I get this feedback? Like that was not the case at all. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It could be part of the game of perhaps a misnomer at times for software engineers that maybe they don't have the most energy and positivity, and they're not the most talkative and inquisitive and things like that. So
Yeah.
I think that's always a good thing, especially when you're excited about a job. Asking questions, things like that, really shows your interest.
How can companies make their, their positions more, I don't know, flashy or more desirable? You mentioned candidates come out of it, oh, I'm just not really feeling too good, like, or happy about the position. So, like, is that something like in the interview process that companies have? Does that kind of dictate the feelings of the candidates that come out of that, or is it really just maybe it's compensation or um, just maybe just a bland culture or product? I don't know.
Yeah,
You have any insights there?
good question. Um, I think I think at times it might just be a person to person sort of deal. The person interviewing um, maybe isn't the most exciting person in the world. They might have the most amazing product or service or what have you, but they're not really bringing out any enthusiasm in that interviewee. So blame that on the company, right? That could be a culture issue, that could be a personal issue, whatever it is. Um, Clients need to understand we're interviewing them. Candidates need to understand we're interviewing the company, and vice versa, and everything in between. We're all interviewing each other here. How can we get someone excited? So
Right.
yeah, it's a two-way street. Absolutely. I think making positions more flashy, um, yeah, it's compensation wouldn't be a piece in that case, in my opinion. I typically make sure a candidate understands if they're within range, but I don't think a candidate necessarily knows exactly what the offer is going to be while they're
Right.
interviewing, right?
Right.
So benefits, that doesn't really come up until the 11th hour. Honestly, it's usually like, hey, the benefits are a complete package, whatever that might look like.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, I would say compensation, benefits, that's not necessarily a factor in that case. Perhaps hybrid versus remote versus on site. That's kind of the hottest thing these days is flexibility. So
Okay.
that could be a piece of it. But again, that can usually be a stopping point even before the process gets started. So yeah, I think it's maybe the product, the organization, kind of what they do more broadly, maybe what they saw online, website wise or LinkedIn. It could be those things, and perhaps there's just not a lot of energy coming out of that person in the first place. They're more of a person that likes to put their head down and write code. I don't know.
Sure.
It's tough to know how to get a rise out of someone, and that's part of my job too. Is what does get you excited, and I hope to find that sort of match. But yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's different for every person for sure.
Sure. So I guess if you had to give hiring managers or your clients advice to, like, who are struggling to find good talent, like, what would you tell them anything, or just say, hey, keep doing what you're doing? Or would you say, hey, maybe consider, like, if they're doing requiring everybody come to the office, would you say, hey, maybe consider a hybrid approach? Like,
Yeah,
what's that kind of look like?
yeah. I think. I mean, first and foremost, I think a hybrid approach is the best option. And hybrid could mean once a week. It could mean once every 2 weeks. It could be once a
Sure.
quarter. It could be varying amounts of hybrid. But I think the option to see someone face to face, I think, is a good thing, and that's what I get most from candidates, that
Okay.
I want to work remotely, but I want to have the ability to go on site. Um, Most of our clients say we want someone to come on site several days a
Yeah.
week,
Yeah.
but we can allow them to work remotely. There's kind of a different, there's a little bit of a gap between what clients want and what candidates want these days, and you work through that. But I would say ultimately, yeah, having options is a good thing, and And for clients, it's really dependent on their business too. I work with med device companies. You kind of need to be on site. You kind of need to be around the device
Sure.
to work with your team members. And maybe something more remote is more SaaS and regard. I mean, there's different situations for different things. There's different candidate situations. Again, you kind of work through it case by case. It's really tough to put a blanket over everything in that case.
Sure.
Um, yeah.
So I think this is like a good transition into what are you seeing in the job market? Are you seeing a lot of companies going full remote positions now? Um, or what's that look like?
Yeah. So we're mainly working with Minnesota-based organizations.
Okay.
We've got probably 62 different roles that we're working on right now, which is normal. It's probably an average number as of the last few years. I would say of those 60-ish positions we're working on, 75% are probably fully remote, or allowed to be fully remote. And then you've got maybe more on the leadership side requires an on-site presence more often than not.
Sure.
You've got again the med device and maybe even some manufacturing that might require more on-site, and even that is probably 3 days a week. And then maybe 5 or 6 positions that are 5 days on site. So that's probably the cut of what we see right now is
Okay.
you've got the 5 roles that are full on site, which
Yeah.
are extremely difficult to fill. Um, and and mainly those roles are you're recruiting candidates that are already 5 days on site and they're going to another job that's 5 days on site.
Okay.
You got to look at commutes. You got to look at
Right.
it's a much different search, but the candidate probably isn't totally thrown off by being on site that much. Um, the leadership roles, they typically understand. Hey, I understand. I need to work with other leaders on site. We're in the whatever conference room together several times a week, stuff like that. So I also have leadership roles that are fully remote. So that can go both ways as well. But
Okay.
yeah, a lot is fully remote or fully remote with let's get together once every couple weeks type thing at our office in the Twin Cities type deal.
Okay. So it's definitely trending towards more remote. Um, come in maybe once a month, once a quarter, things like that. Is there any other trends you're seeing kind of in the job market?
Yeah, I would say trends have been maybe hiring more broadly. And what I mean by that is, hey, we're looking for a full stack .NET developer. We used to want React experience. We're open to any modern JavaScript experience now. We're looking for Azure background. Okay, we're maybe open to any public cloud background. It's more
Okay.
broadly hiring, maybe hiring for problem solvers and smart people. I really root for that because it opens up my
Right.
my candidate pool,
Yeah.
and it's fun to recruit candidates that are smart problem solvers versus let's check every box on this position. Let's make sure they have X, Y, Z, A, B, C, and 1, 2, 3.
Right. Right.
It's so exhausting, and hiring leaders know it's exhausting too because they're trying as well. So the trend maybe is that more broad hiring, more not specific skill set, but more broad problem solvers and smart people. So
Sure.
that's probably a trend, and that's I think totally indicative of we can't find enough people for this job, right? We don't have
Yeah.
enough people out there. We got to just find someone smart, and we'll train them up. We'll get them going. So that's definitely a trend that I've seen. Um, I think another trend is perhaps everything's kind of candidate driven. So almost catering even the interview process to a candidate. You know, hey, what works for the candidate? How can we keep them excited and maintain their interest in this role? Should we do an on-site interview? Should we do virtual interviews? They're kind of asking for our advice, and
Sure.
my recommendation is always, let's not like write it in stone. Let's talk about this on a case by case basis. I think for this candidate, we should interview them this way, and we should test them this way, and try to maintain their interest that way. And
Sure.
it's more of a case by case and crafted approach versus, let's do this is how we've always done it. We've been doing it for
Yeah.
50 years. And it's like, no, we have to stop that. We got to be more meticulous with our search process and with our interview process, and the way we land candidates. It just needs to be more of a white glove approach, I guess.
Yeah. You definitely have to adapt. And it's funny you mentioned, hiring more broadly, because like I guess now thinking back on the jobs I applied for in the Midwest, I always thought like, okay, they're always looking for specific technologies and interviewing like very specific technologies. But then like when you would look at big tech, they didn't care what technologies. They just cared you had some experience.
Exactly.
So it's good to see that companies are kind of changing that, because I honestly think that's a better way to hire. Is
Yeah.
okay, hire engineers that are good, that they're good at learning, and they have experience in these domains, and the patterns and everything just transfer for sure.
And you make a good point there. Maybe you didn't mean to make it, but big tech, right? Hire smart engineers. That makes total sense. They have the time, the resources, the energy, the personnel to get someone smart going. But when we work with
Sure.
a 50-person shop, 150 people at this company with six engineers, can we afford to hire one person that's smart but takes 5 months to get going? No, we
Sure.
we need to we need to find someone that's an exact fit. So I think there's different ways of doing it for different companies, but you hope you're finding a long-term fit. You feel a lot better about investing your time and resources into training someone up and getting them going.
Yeah.
Some companies, I mean, even today, they're just not simply going to be able to do that and hire smart versus hiring a spot on fit. They don't have that time or resource or anything else to hire smart versus hiring an exact fit that maybe isn't as smart. And that's just the way I think it'll always be that way. But and that's why they work with us too, right? They need that exact fit. They're willing
Right.
to spend the extra money with a recruiter to find that perfect fit. Um, so it goes. I think that's just the nature of the game.
Right. Right. I would definitely agree. Like you definitely need to, you know, if you have a specialized role, you need to find somebody with that exact fit. Um, yeah, makes total sense. Um, yeah, what about like job openings or positions? Like, have you seen that slow down in the last, 3 to 6 months? What's that kind of look like over, you know, the market was super hot. Like,
Yeah,
is it still hot? What's that look like? I'm sure you have a ton of
yeah.
insight.
So I've been doing this for 8 years now. I would say the last 18 months, probably the hottest I've ever seen in terms
Okay.
of strength of market. Um, in a smaller bubble, now would be slower than 6 months ago.
Okay.
Slower but strong, very very strong.
Okay.
Um, so so I would say, and what I mean by slower, I almost mean there's still a lot of openings, and there's still new openings, and there's still a lot going on, but it's almost as if um, hiring managers perhaps have gotten a little pickier. Process has perhaps gotten a little bit more drawn out, and sometimes that can be for a number of reasons. But 6 months ago, it was the hottest for sure I've ever seen. But right now is the second hottest I've for sure
Sure.
ever seen. You know what I mean? It's
Okay.
extremely
Okay.
hot, and it's 1B right now. Um, Still a lot of confidence in the market, still a lot of needs in the market, and part of me thinks we're still kind of catching up from 2020 almost, like in July of 2020, like people couldn't find anyone, and the market
Sure.
was starting to pick back up, and business was booming for a lot of spaces. And next thing you know, you can't find anyone, and there's more openings than there's ever been. They're still catching up from that. So they still have openings that they're trying to get up to, and still have releases that they're trying to hit, that everything's been pushed back. I mean, supply chain, everything's just been behind schedule. So I think we're behind schedule on hiring, and it's a strong market, and we're behind schedule. Even if it's a little bit slower, we're behind schedule. So hiring companies still need to know they need to hire and things of that nature. So yeah, thumbs up. If not two thumbs up, it's 1 3/4 thumbs up right now. So
That's good to
yeah, a
hear.
lot of openings, like I said, and yeah, perhaps a little bit pickier than it was 6 months ago, but
Okay.
nothing to get worried about, in my opinion. I mean, business is still going very well.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've seen too. Is like my emails are still coming just as many as I normally get,
Yeah,
if not more. And then that's even like despite me seeing layoffs in companies. I think even the people I've seen get laid off, like they're finding jobs super easy. So people are
yeah,
picking up good talent other places. So I don't think it's a
definitely.
big deal.
How many emails do you get on a I don't know, weekly basis, I guess?
I probably get 3 to 5 daily,
Okay.
and then
Yeah.
emails. I get a bunch of emails too. Most of them I don't go through. They just go straight to trash.
Yeah.
There's just too
Funny.
much going
I
on.
mean, recruiters, we're relentless. It's
Yeah,
we're all over the place.
yeah. Is there any like technologies you're seeing trending right now, or like what tech should software engineers learn right now if they want to be the most marketable?
Yeah. Um, React on the JavaScript side seems to be number one. Um, User facing. Node.js server side still seems to be very hot. Um, I would historically say the Twin Cities is a Microsoft town. So .NET Core is pretty hot and kind of has been for a while.
Sure.
Um, I would say anything cloud related is extremely hot. Again, Azure probably tied with AWS in terms of
Okay.
marketability. In terms of the Twin Cities, again, more broadly. I can't speak to the entire country, but that's Twin Cities related. Automation is extremely hot. Everyone wants to have an automated testing system, and not everyone is there. Very few are there, but hey, let's get it. Let's automate this. Let's test it this way, and let's go this direction. Cypress and Selenium and a lot of the modern tools from an automation perspective are extremely hot. Um, what else? Salesforce. Some of
Okay.
the some things outside of pure software development. Everyone seems to be overhauling their ERP systems these days. There's a lot going on outside of development, but yeah, again, .NET, I would say Java's probably behind .NET in terms of the Twin Cities, and again, smaller to mid-sized organizations mainly working with .NET or open source. Uh, Seeing a lot less Ruby on Rails, seeing a lot more Python, data
Okay.
related.
Okay.
A lot of the modern data tools, DBT, Domo, things like that have been pretty hot. But still, I think the number one word we hear in our office is probably React. That's just,
Okay.
it
Yeah.
was Angular like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, and it was probably like that 2 years before in California. Like
Sure.
we're
Sure.
we're like a hair behind that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it seems like React and then Angular and Vue is actually popping up quite a bit more these days as well. So Vue and Angular are maybe battling for that two spot, but React is kind of that number one.
Okay.
But yeah, yeah, I
That's
would
good.
say some of those things are extremely talked about, wanted. maybe we're not there yet, but we're going that direction type of stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
What about job titles? Like, what job titles are hot? Like, is data engineering hotter than software engineering right now, or what are you kind of seeing there?
Software engineer is and has always been the number one title, right?
Okay.
Like you've got everything else after software engineer. Data engineer, a lot of people are getting into like Power BI and some more advanced pipelining and stuff like that, but software engineer is the jam. That's it.
Okay.
That's number one. Perhaps like DevOps engineer,
Sure.
site reliability engineer, some things along those lines. Data engineer, sure. A lot of people will say it's a data engineer, but really it's like an ETL developer or something.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's still software engineer. That would be far and away number one. What else? Yeah, I mean, a lot more product owners, a lot more scrum masters, a lot more of the full agile team roles are coming out, because again, companies are still trying to be more and more agile and haven't gotten there yet, so they still want to get in that direction. Yeah, a lot more product management perhaps, but
okay,
development is, there's a lot more development than there is QA, right? There's a lot more development than there is on your infrastructure team, and it's just, you need more horsepower in that department. So popularity wise, it's definitely there.
Okay. Let's see. I don't want to ask all the questions. Like, do you have any questions, that I can answer that might, help you in what you do day to day?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, you get what, 3 to 5 emails a day plus emails. How do I stick out? How do I get your attention? And I can get your attention because we know each other, right? But then I've got relationships with a whole bunch of people. How do I get someone's attention that I've never talked to before? I've never reached out to. As a recruiter, we talk relentlessly about how to get people's attention. That's our whole thing. I think we do an okay job at giving you the right story and the right opportunity and talking you through the process and things like that. But man, getting someone's attention on the front end is the toughest thing in our business. Is it a subject line? Is it a short message? Is it a long message? We look at open rates and in-mail success and stuff like that. Tell me about how I get your attention.
I would say, like, the first thing is making sure you get my name right. Like, that's the obvious one. A lot of people use templates, script names, copy paste, whatever. It's like, okay, put in a little effort there, and then I think also just like adding in a personal detail, showing that you like dug a little deeper into somebody's life. So like, I have a personal website. I tend to at least respond to people who have actually gone in and like made a connection. Hey, I'm from the Midwest too. I enjoy wakeboarding just like you. I've checked out some YouTube videos, cool stuff. It's like, okay, like this guy actually put some work in to like learn about who I am. And so like, whether or not I'm interested, I'll probably reply to that. But for the most part, like, I'm definitely looking for, kind of like a high level responsibilities of the position, and then a salary range is always super key. Unless like, I'm just super attracted to the position, then I'll entertain it.
So salary range, that's something we always toy with, right? Like, we don't know if to put that in there, if not to put that in there. Oftentimes these days, someone will respond to us and just say, "What's the salary range?" Yeah. We hate that as recruiters, right? And you guys know that too. So it's like we're both battling with that, because we don't want to tell you the salary range, not because it's a secret necessarily. We don't know. We don't know if you'll get the job at the high end of the salary range, and that's kind of what we're hoping you get, is the job. You know what I mean?
Right.
We don't want to say this job is 120 to 150, and you say, great, 150 sounds awesome, and you interview, and they're like, yeah, we really like this guy. He's a 120 guy for us, and we talked about 150 before we even
Sure.
talked. You've already got this number in your mind. So would you have taken the job if it was 130? Yeah. Okay, great. Like, why didn't we have a little bit more broad understanding of how this works? We're rooting for you guys. You know what I mean? Like, we want you to get the highest offer possible, but we also want you to get the job, and we also want our client to be where we want everyone to win. And the difference between 120, 130, 140, it's not a crazy financial difference for us. Like, it truly isn't. So
Sure.
some companies think it is, it's not. Some engineers think it is, it's not. We want you to get the job, and if we tell you that range on the front end, we struggle with that because we don't want you to put that number in your mind. Oh, crazy, 150. I'm making 110 right now. That's an awesome increase. You're making 110, maybe because you're worth 110, and your next job you're going to be worth 125. All right,
Sure.
let's just talk through it versus telling you that on the front end. So, you know, it's kind of like, do you show your cards, right? Do you show your cards and say,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
they can do 150? You know, from time to time, we do let you know what the range is, and if you ask straight up, I'll tell you what it is, but I will walk you through kind of how I'm feeling about the range and how I feel your skill set aligns.
Sure.
I talked to someone yesterday. He was targeting a salary range, and I said, I can't present you to my client. You're not worth that to my client. You might be worth that elsewhere, but
Right.
I have a standard to uphold. I know what this person wants. I've done a lot of work with them. For this role, you're not worth that salary range, and I won't present you to them.
Right.
Moving on, and it was a respectful goodbye. But yeah, that salary range, it's a touchy subject, and not because we're trying to be secretive, not because we don't trust you or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just it's a two-way street on salary, and yeah, sometimes you say, what's the salary range, and we don't respond. um you're gone. You're off
Right.
to the
Right.
distance. Forget you, recruiter, I'm out of here. And it's like, oh, you
Yeah.
were worth it to them. I just didn't want to share it on the front, whatever it was. It's yeah, that's I think that's a battle, and something we'll always deal with. But putting the salary range in mail or not putting it in there, yeah, it's a coin flip whether we do or not, or we'll respond to that question if we know it.
Right. It's like you gotta set expectations. And then I guess from my perspective, the reason I like salary ranges is I kind of know what I'm worth. So like I don't even want to waste my time on stuff that's not even close.
Yeah, that's a great point, right? And it's fun when someone straight up says to me, like, if I didn't even put the salary range in there, hey, I need to be at X, and it's like, good to know. That's
Right.
super helpful. At the second token, we have 63 jobs we're working on. This job might not be the fit. We've got another job probably in the wings that could be a better fit. So oftentimes I don't even place the person in the job I'm sending them a message on. I talk to them, I learn about them, I understand who they are. Actually, I'm interested in X, Y, and Z. Wow, we work with that sort of company.
Right.
Would you want to hear about a role like that? Sure, let's talk more about that opportunity. Additionally, I've got relationships with hiring managers that there might not even be an open role. It's kind of a hidden job market that I talk to you and say, wow, I've got the company, I've got the job that doesn't even exist yet.
Yeah.
I need to introduce you to this person because I think you and this person would get along very, very well. And they're always open to strong talent. Perfect. Make an intro. Next thing you know, they're working together, and the job didn't exist. And that's the most fun when you connect people that
Right.
you just have a really strong feeling and intuition about, and they start working together. It's a lot of fun. But
Yeah, that's
you
awesome.
make a good point about salary, right? It's let's not waste each other's time. You're not taking a step back,
Yeah.
especially early in someone's career that's been doing this less than 20 years, probably, you're not taking a step back. Unless, I don't know, the benefits or the bonus or the equity, there could be a lot of reasons that it might make sense, but salary wise, it's a really tough thing to take a step back. And
Right.
it's probably not going to work. So let's find opportunities that it will work for.
Are you seeing companies in the Twin Cities struggle competing with comp right now?
Absolutely. It's really shaking things up. The COVID era of remote workforce, you know, remote, it makes the whole country a candidate,
Right.
and
Right.
and we're still working with companies that are in Minnesota historically that want candidates in Minnesota, whether or not they're remote. They might be remote, but again, once every 2 weeks we do a all hands, or once a quarter we want this person to come in. If they live in
Yeah.
Utah, they're not going to come in. So we need a
Yep.
candidate in Minnesota. And when every other company outside of the Twin Cities, on the coast mainly, that can hire you guys, you've got wild salary ranges that you're competing with.
Right.
It pumps the market up here locally, because otherwise you're not going to hire anyone. So
Yeah.
um, absolutely struggling to catch up at times. Some companies won't catch up because they financially can't catch up. So their business struggles because of it. But yeah, salaries have absolutely inflated in the last 2.5 years, and it's been a challenge. So
Sure.
you try to find some other ways to compensate people if you can't if you can't pump up the salary number, but uh, that's a challenge. I mean, plain and simple, it's a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else? Any question? What did you have any other questions for me?
Yeah. So what what would you say? I mean, when you talk about salary, when you talk about flexibility, when you talk about technologies, like, how do you rank these things? And I have to think everyone's different, right? But I know you've got a circle of colleagues, former colleagues, friends that are software engineers and other technical people. What's important to you guys, and what should we focus on as recruiters? Again, to get your attention is kind of the
Right.
key. But what are those things in ranking order, and how so?
Yeah, I would say probably comp's number one. I would say probably base salary, then equity. Um, Sign-on bonus is always good. Um, and then I think a big thing too is like PTO for me is like close second.
Okay.
Um, like unlimited PTO, I feel like once I've gone there, like I can't really go back
So
to some extent.
that's
Like some people don't
that's
utilize it. I use it.
yeah. I've been to a few HR forums that have spoken on that topic of unlimited PTO. Um, have you, in your experience, or through the people is unlimited PTO desirable? Is it not interesting because it's there's no value to it? Can you take unlimited PTO? Right, things like that. How
Yeah.
do you feel about that?
I would say like my friend group, we're all SEs, or data engineers, and I would say for the most part, like they like the unlimited PTO because then they don't really have to think, hey, can I go on this vacation? Like we do a lot of trips together to work remotely in different places. So like every February, for example, we go to Colorado, get an Airbnb in the mountains and like work. So like if a powder day comes up, like we all want to just go hit the mountain. But like
Yeah.
if people can't take the time off because they're saving it for Christmas or other holidays, that's definitely a challenge for them. So it's it's that freedom, that option, that flexibility. And then to come back to your question about, is it truly unlimited? I haven't had any problems with it, but I also don't think I abuse it. I definitely get my work done, things like that. Set expectations with my manager, things like that, to really, make sure we're all on the same page of, how many days I can take off, stuff like that.
And I think that's a sign of a good culture. That, I mean, you don't abuse it, great, but at the same token, you probably don't feel um, guilty about taking time off. If you're getting your work done, I think
Right.
that's clearly the most important thing.
Yeah.
At some organizations, maybe more legacy organizations, it's a different mindset. It's a different culture. You've got unlimited PTO, but you can't take any time off.
Right.
It's
Right.
it's kind of a interesting dynamic, and I think some people that have experienced unlimited PTO, when I say unlimited PTO about a new organization, they say, "No way, I'm not doing that again." And it's like, oh my gosh, it's a true unlimited PTO. I promise. Like, these people take time off, and they
Yeah.
have no idea because they're jaded from their experience at their former organizations about what that means. And the same, I mean, same topic goes with equity, right? You said equity was number two. I have some startup organizations that have been around for 30 years and
Yeah.
they offer equity. They're not adding any value to that equity. It means nothing. They will never
Right.
sell their private organization. That equity means $0. So
Right.
it's there's an understanding that, hey, equity might mean one thing or another. Unlimited PTO might mean one thing or another. I think it's important for software engineers to ask those questions. You know, be
Yeah.
be
For
honest
sure.
and open with a recruiter that you're working with, or a hiring manager, or an HR professional. What does this mean? In my experience, I know it can mean multiple things. How do you feel about this, and what do you think it means, and what is the culture around this? They're typically gonna tell you the truth. You know what I mean? You ask
Yep.
them straight,
Yep.
they're gonna tell you the truth. They're gonna give you some insight. And if that's an important piece to you, an important part of the total package, you got to ask about it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you unlimited PTO, and if you don't want to know any more about that, I won't tell you any more about that. I'm just going to tell you it's unlimited PTO. So, what's
Yeah.
what's normal, what's typical of unlimited PTO, and at this organization might be this, at this it might be that. So, um, yeah, good to be diving deeper and peeling back that onion to really understand what some of these things mean. But yeah, I mean, to hear you say those things, I know you've worked for some great organizations, and what those things mean. So yeah, it's I think everyone's had different experiences in that sense, but
Yeah. I think it's
yeah,
definitely
very
like taking the time when to take PTO. Probably don't take it like when you're supposed to have a product, like a feature launch.
yeah,
Like, that's not a good idea. Wait till
exactly.
after and then take some time. Or,
Yeah,
I also think from a company perspective, HR perspective, like, I know a lot of people who offer unlimited PTO, and employees just don't take it. They'd probably
yeah,
take less days than they would if they were allocated, 25 days, 21 days, whatever it might be.
yeah, yeah. It's a culture thing. um, and perhaps people don't feel confident to take time off, or um, they feel like it's the wrong thing to do. I don't know. There's a lot of examples out there for sure. Cool. Um, what else? What else can I mean? I'm always looking to be a better recruiter, right? What do you think are the I mean, maybe not the advantages or disadvantages of working with a recruiter, but why why would you work with a recruiter versus not work with a recruiter?
Sure. Um, my biggest thing is like finding a job can be stressful. There's abundance of, openings, positions. So having somebody who can vet those for me is definitely valuable. Um, just making sure I don't waste my time. Uh, Only looking at jobs that I'm interested in, that fit my comp, etc. Um, so yeah, I think somebody who can manage setting up interviews, whatever that might look like, have one place to go. So I'm not having to give out my availability to 10 different people. It'd be nice to give it to one, and then they can set up interviews, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I think just reducing the friction, reducing the stress, just making it an easy process to go through.
How can anyone be a better partner for a software engineer, right? How can we be better as a grouping of recruiters, right? What can we be
Yeah,
better about? Is it is it adding salary to our messages? Is that a starting point?
I think a big thing is just, I feel like there's a sense of, oh, recruiters are just trying to pinch some money out of you, so you're not going to get what you really deserve.
Sure.
So it's like, maybe a better position for recruiters is help candidates understand their value in the current market. So whether that's,
Yeah.
I know your firm comes out with salary insights every year. I definitely check those out. I think that's a good way to do it. But having that on your first call, like, hey, do you know what your value is currently in this market? What do you think you're currently valued at? I think that might be a good conversation to have and be really
Yeah.
helpful, because you might find a candidate. I know a lot of friends who are like way underpaid for what they're doing, and they just didn't know any better. So like, if you were like, hey man, like, you got the skills, um, I think I can get you a lot more money. And then I think, in turn, that's just gonna work out in your favor too.
Yeah. Totally. And I think I think there is a clear definition of recruiter and what we do, right? We are recruiters because we recruit candidates for our clients. We are not um, candidate placers, right? We do work for our clients, and I think a lot of the bad raps we get are because that is truly our role. We recruit candidates for our clients. The client pays us. We work for the client. That's our number one responsibility, is the client. And sometimes candidates get frustrated with us because of, again, non-responsiveness. I don't agree with. I don't deal with that. That's not my game. But
Sure.
um, that happens because a recruiter says, "All right, you didn't get that job. I got to move on to someone else that's going to get that job," and that's simply what it is. And
Right.
unfortunately, I mean, I don't agree. That's not the way you treat people. There's still people on the other end of that line. So
Yeah.
that's often what it is. And I think telling someone about their value, very challenging for a business major. It's I'm not a computer science background. I've
Sure.
spoken to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of software engineers, so I can give you a broad scope of where I think you would land on paper. But I can't interview you the same way another computer science major hiring manager will interview you. I can't put you through that same testing and rigorous interview process that the company will do.
Sure.
So I can probably give you a broad range because of um, just the standard and what I typically see. And again, I do that regularly. A lot of people want to say, "What am I worth?" and stick a rubber stamp on my forehead with a dollar amount. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's super challenging. So I'll try to be very broad with that and let them know I think you would land here on paper. Again, I had someone ask me 2 days ago, "What am I worth?" And I tried to walk them through how I looked at their resume and the skills that they had and the companies they've worked for. And I was like, "You're probably making this, and in your next job, if you worked for this sort of organization, you could probably make that." And
Sure.
they disagreed. And I was like, "Okay." I was like, "That's fine.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wish you well. I'll check their update in a few months when they get a new job, and I'll know what they're making there too, and it's probably going to be in line with what I told them." But it's really challenging to tell someone what they're worth, and it's they disagree with it because it's maybe low. I don't know. It's a
Right.
challenge,
Right. Yeah.
but yeah, very
Yeah.
interesting
I do want to be cognizant of
dynamic.
your. Sorry, what was that?
No, nothing.
I just want to be cognizant of your time. We're coming up on like an hour. So I
Okay.
just want to, like, I feel like we could go out all day. We got good stuff to chat about.
Yeah.
We should
No,
definitely
I'm
do this
good.
more often, regardless of
Yeah,
the podcast.
definitely the Hayden and Zach podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this has been good stuff. I really appreciate you asking me to be on the show and carving out time. But um, I agree. I'd love to chat with you more. And um, you know, it's my job. I do this many hours in a given week, and it's the biggest thing for us is getting people's attention, because we've got 60 plus opportunities that we work on at any given time. And the thing about Skywater, we are even financially encouraged to share profiles. So I
Sure.
might be working on a dozen jobs, but I've got 6 other people that work on a dozen jobs too. And I want to share your background. I don't want to hoard your background when I talk to you and wow, I'm really excited about you. I gotta hide you and I gotta place you at my client. No, I instantly after a conversation share your name with 6 other people and theoretically 60 other opportunities that could be a good fit for you. So
Yeah.
um, you know, we're encouraged to do that. And it's not like that at every recruiting company. The way they're
Right.
set up is
Right.
a little bit differently. So
I think that's
um,
a good approach. I noticed that when I was working with you, it was like, oh yeah, I'll have my team look out for these types of positions, and I was like,
yeah,
this is great. Like I got a team behind me. I don't have one person.
exactly. And a lot of recruiters out there, they're doing it in their garage in their underwear. You know what I mean? Like they're
Yeah.
just sitting behind a computer. We've been doing this. Our organization's been around for a long time, and I mean, I've been doing it for 8 years. I've got colleagues that have been doing it for 9, 10, 15 years. Like this isn't like, hey, we're trying out recruiting for a year. You see a lot of
Right.
people that try it. It's a hard job. And if it doesn't work out, you go off and do something else. But we don't really have that sort of turnover at a lot of recruiting companies do. So I think we've got a great approach. I think that's part of it is a team. We feel like we have a
Yep.
team, and our candidates feel the team effect too. I get off the phone, I'm going to say, based on your skill set, you're going to see a few messages here shortly. And within an hour, they've got 7 emails in their inbox for jobs that are within their comp range,
Sure.
local to to where they live, technologies that are aligning with what they told me. It's not 8 different jobs that are off the beaten path. It's like, no, these are jobs that are totally legit for who you are and what you do. And that's, I think, really cool. I have seen it where sometimes a candidate is passive, and most candidates are seemingly passive, right? They're only open to that right role. So they tell me I'm only open to that right job, and we send them like 7 emails, and they're like, I don't want a new job. I'm good. Shut me
Yeah.
down. You know what I mean? And it's like we scared them off, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, we're so excited, but that happens. So yeah, no. I'm very proud to work for Skywater. I think we do it the right way. I think we're a fair and honest organization. We've got integrity, and um, it can be at times kind of a slimy business,
Sure.
at least on the outside. But when you understand the whys, it makes sense of the things we do, and we're never in a business to do anyone wrong. We want everyone to win. We're not trying to inflate fees. We're not trying to
Yeah.
pump the tires. It really like makes such a small difference. So it's really not about that. And you find, I think something like 72% of our business is repeat business.
Okay.
So I mean, people want to work with us again after they've worked
Right.
with us
Right.
once. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, like you do it the right way. Of course, people are going to want to work with you again. So we're in it for the long game. We're not a pop-up tent recruiting company. So yeah, do it the right way, I think is always the right thing.
That's good. Yeah. So
Yeah,
for anybody listening to this, like where should they come get in touch with you guys if they want to work with you or your team at Skywater?
absolutely. So find me on LinkedIn, Zac Kallas, Dallas with a K. But skywatersearch.com, you can see all the recruiters that we have at Skywater. We've got about 50, and across disciplines too. So we've got 7 in IT, but we've also got operations, accounting and finance, sales, HR, legal, construction, financial services, consumer packaged goods. We do it all in terms of salaried positions, full-time permanent roles, small to mid-sized organizations up to, call it, 5,000. We have some companies that are larger than that, some that are smaller than 50. So we cover a lot of ground. Again, Minnesota is our focus. We do have an accounting and finance practice in Chicago as well. So we're kind of growing to more of a regional approach. But skywatersearch.com, follow us on LinkedIn, check our job openings out. Hiring managers, absolutely reach out to us for we're kind of that one-stop shop in terms of sure, you need IT help, we can do that, but you want to work with us on multiple disciplines, multiple opportunities between mid-level contributor up to C-suite. We work on president, CEO, CFO, CTO. We work on those roles and all the way down to mid-level software engineer. So we're a great resource if you want someone local. We're not a national brand with offices all over the country. We are very focused on this market. We're all born and raised in the community here, so we know it very well. But yeah, check us out online and on LinkedIn.
Awesome.
And on Twitter. Thanks. And on everything else. But yeah, we're LinkedIn. We're very LinkedIn savvy. That's kind of our game.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Zac, for being on the podcast today. I'll make sure to get your guys' stuff in the description here. This will be on all platforms. So definitely give it a listen, check it out. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you in the next one.
Thanks, Hayden.